Welcome back to another bowl season episode of Locked In, where we provide football intel for the modern fan. I am the coach, Dr. Jeremy Locke. I'm joined by my co-host, Chance Rollins, and also tonight, the legendary Logan Revel. Tonight's going to bring us to a bit of a talk on a bowl out west, featuring a great team from out west, the Fiesta Bowl. It's going to highlight the Oregon Ducks and the Liberty Flames. Gentlemen, where do you want to start with this one? It seems like a very much a David and Goliath matchup. Do y'all see it any other way?
I mean, I do see it the other way because in the Bible, David actually kills Goliath, and I do not think that the Flames will be able to put a torch the Ducks. I'm just going to be honest. It's a 90% chance on ESPN for the Ducks to win. And usually I'm a big underdog guy. I root for the underdog almost 90% of the time. But in this case, Liberty's not proven, and Oregon is very good, even though they have two losses to Washington. Oregon is very good. So I just do not see a way that Liberty comes out of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I have
So,
a couple, with with this game, I have my expectations and I have my hopes. I went to school at Liberty, so I am a very big fan of them. But just as my other team that was in bowl season, it's very low expectations and high hopes just for the sake of hoping.
I was gonna say your other team lost so bad that we can't even make a recap video for that one.
Headlock.
the hits just keep on coming tonight. So, what can we say in specific about this game? Where do you want to begin, with the Flames or the Ducks?
We can go with the Ducks. I mean, they're the team that everybody is, or most people are probably familiar with. And I mean, I'll let Chance talk a little bit about what he likes with their offense and defense before we get into the film. But one thing that I do want to point out, as far as like opt outs and things like that, are just really just meaningful bowl games here. It seems like the chatter is that Oregon is concentrated on this game. Um, there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, definitely a big factor is just the sheer difference between the two teams and the embarrassing factor for a program to lose to a team like Liberty, who's up and coming, who's just really started branching out into the FBS and into a conference this year. So, I mean, that alone should give a lot of want to win this game for Oregon. And Bo Nix, as far as every single report and from his own mouth, is playing in this game, which obviously is a very, very big deal. But I'll let Chance take it.
I was to say I don't think Oregon has many opt outs, if any. So they are a very good team led by a great head coach that I personally love. He's Georgia's old DC. This is his second year in the system, and he really wants this bowl game just to prove to everybody that, hey, Oregon is here and we're here to stay. They're moving into a new conference next year. They're hoping to transition into that conference with a great bowl win here tomorrow, or I guess today when this video goes out. Say the big thing about Oregon I like, besides Bo Nix, who is an absolute great quarterback, especially for the Pac-12, is their line and Jordan James. Say I think they run the ball well, and they make great passes to the running back out of the backfield. They do it particularly well compared to any other team you'll see in college football. And they even have some nice screens, which we hound on screens all the time. Any video you watch, we talk about how teams don't run any screen right. Say Oregon and Washington both run their screens right. I don't know if it's because they're Pac-12 and conferences tend to do the same things or what, but Oregon's a very good football team. They do things the right way. Say they didn't have enough to get over the hump with Washington this year. So they're playing the best group of five team there is, which is Liberty. And I think that they'll be able to stick it out running the ball, throwing the ball. I think they throw for around 300, maybe more, and they run for over 100. I think it'll be a very exciting game to watch.
In terms of defense, what can we expect to see out of the Ducks?
So you'll see very good man coverage. Say if you notice a trend like me, you'll see elite teams, very good teams, the top teams, all running man coverage very well at a very high level. So you have to have the athletes to do it along with the coaching prowess to do it. Dan Lanning is a very good head coach, very good defensive mind. He coaches his DBs very well. And from the linebackers all the way to the safeties, they know how to play man coverage. And they also pick their players very well, whether it be matching the linebacker up with a running back. And also, they also jam them at the line. So within 5 yards in football, you can hit a receiver, you can hit a tight end, you can hit a running back. So it doesn't matter within 5 yards. So Oregon does a very good job at actually going and getting hands on when they're in man. So they bump players off their routes on other teams, and it really messes up teams because usually teams throw to spots instead of to people. So Oregon does a very good job of man coverage. That's the biggest thing I could point out from their defense.
So, Rev, it sounds like the Flames' work is cut out for them. How can Liberty respond on offense to try to get some points on the board?
Liberty has the #1 rushing offense in college football. Now, caveat, that's against Conference USA. Clearly, they haven't faced many great defensive lines. There have been a couple in Conference USA that have some pretty good transfers from bigger schools that transferred to get quicker playing time. So they have seen some good talent on the line, but not anywhere close to what Oregon would boast. Probably one of, if not the best, defensive line in the Pac-12. However, we will get to film in a little bit, have a couple plays where we see Oregon's defense struggling with Washington's run game. And in the Pac-12 championship, I would pin a lot of that win for Washington on their ability to run the football against a very good Oregon defense. Obviously, Michael Penix is going to do Michael Penix things, and he made some really great throws. But their running game is what ended up closing that out for them. So Liberty is going to have to really rely on that. Quentin Cooley, number 20 for Liberty, is their main back. He's a bowling ball when he runs. He bounces off tacklers left and right. With a full head of steam, he's going to run over a linebacker with no issue. Now, obviously, this is Oregon that we're talking about, so better competition. So I'm curious to see how that goes. He's a legitimate back. And he has normally very good vision, and he's not top end speed, but he can make you hurt. And then on the other end on the offense is the quarterback. Caden Salter is a absolutely dynamic runner and thrower. He makes sometimes just magical plays that you really don't have any idea how they happened. I'm not going to call him Lamar Jackson or like Johnny Manziel, but those type of plays where they're broken, they shouldn't have happened, and yet he finds a way to make a big play, first down or a touchdown sometimes. So look for him to try and make magic happen against a much better defense than they have seen so far this season.
Do you think that Liberty can stop Oregon at all?
No, I do not have much faith in this defense. There's a couple different reasons why. The first one, we've talked about this in a previous post before. When you have multiple defensive coordinators, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and things get confusing. As far as I'm aware, and this may have changed later on in this season or because of maybe a coach going somewhere else, and I actually don't know this, but in this most of the regular season that I followed, Liberty has 2 defensive coordinators, and I honestly do not know how they split their responsibilities. There have been many times this season, and I don't think we necessarily have a clip of this happening, but I went to some of the games in person. I watched most of them on TV, and I had a conversation with my dad, who is also a coach on the defensive side of the ball. And sometimes it just seems like the front end and the back end of Liberty's defense is not running the same defensive call. They seem disjointed, and it makes me wonder if one defensive coordinator is calling for the front and one of them is calling for the back end, and there's confusion among the defense there. There have been multiple situations, whether it be a long third down or just a 1st and 10 where you should see more of a normal look, and a blitz or a stunt comes up on the front and the back end doesn't cover it. Or there's certain people sinking into coverage that shouldn't be, or that don't when they should. There's just some disjointed defensive play that really makes me scratch my head. On top of that, Chance talked about how good Oregon coaches up their DBs, especially in man coverage. Liberty will run man coverage quite a bit. They'll throw a mixture of things at Oregon. The difference is they are not coached nearly as well. They give up a lot of space to the guys that they cover, whether in zone or man. And the man one, obviously, question, because when you're on man, you should be closer to the guy. But there just seem to, I don't know if it's a fear of speed or what, because they're playing Conference USA opponents, and Liberty, they stack up well. I mean, they won all their games this year against all their opponents and won Conference USA as a whole, but they just seem afraid of speed, and they seem afraid to play up on people. And that hurt them against bad opponents. That's going to kill them against Oregon, because Oregon's receivers are so much better than anything they've seen this year. So the only way that Liberty has a chance in this game is that you get into the third quarter, fourth quarter with a close game with high scoring. You have to be able to score almost every time you touch the ball if you're Liberty here, because I don't see the defense making very many, if any, stops.
Sounds rough. So, Chance, take us to the film and show us how Oregon's going to whip the Flames.
All right. So the film that we've chosen to display today is Oregon against Washington in the Pac-12 championship. It is Oregon's last game that they played in, and they didn't win, but they displayed a very high level of talent on the field, a very high level of coach talent. So if you would run this play, Rev, we see a bunch up at the top of the field, and then it's man coverage, and you just see them hand the ball off. And Oregon's linebackers don't really come down well. If you watch on this play, they're late getting into their stances. And you just have linebackers just sitting out there flat-footed, backpedaling. And Washington has two pullers, and their running back just hits a nice little cutback, and no one's there. So all the linebackers are in the wrong position. So, I mean, you can see them out of position sometimes, not taking steps, but it just depends on what Liberty throws at them. So I think we should see some counter with some pulls, especially with their bowling ball in Cooley for Liberty. So I think he'll be able to break some tackles, especially if Oregon gets in a bad position and just tries to arm tackle him. So you could see some big runs from Cooley.
This Paul, this free stream right here and this clip in general is very interesting as far as alignment goes. Oregon has elected to go 4-over-3, and obviously the threat normally with Washington is Penix throwing the ball and their receivers. So I mean, I understand the thought process here, but they've overloaded the offense's right side, their left side, and they're assuming, if they're going to run the ball, they're going to run it to the offense's right. So they have two backers and then a corner on their left side of the defense, right side of the offense. And there is just a very large open spot right there where Chance is circled. And if you look, the outside backer, I'll try and slow play this. His eyes are at the receivers. He is not paying attention to what's going on in the backfield, and he has to come down and fill this gap here. They don't have anybody, and I'm not really sure if this is a alignment mistake, if this is just this guy's mistake, not looking where he needs to be, because he's so far out of this play. And I mean, Washington blocks this great, but it was easy. Oregon gave them this play.
Yeah, I was saying if they try to arm tackle him, it's over. So what's even worse is they overloaded that on that side, and there was only one person able to catch the ball, and that's their tight end. They didn't even have anybody to cover their Washington's running back.
Right, and I put this in here. This is the second play. Obviously, I highlighted Liberty's ability to run the football against weaker opponents in Oregon, but I just wanted to show two plays where Oregon did struggle to stop the run, because if there's any hope for Liberty here, they have got to run the football.
So, yeah, just a nice little toss play outside. And you see them backers get trapped rushing in right here, say. And then they're just stealing man coverage.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can really do about it.
One of the things, too, with this, I think that is just interesting to point out is that, the old adage of, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on excuse me, I'm screwing that all up. Look at the top of the screen.
Yep.
You got 4-on-3.
Yep.
This is 2 times that we've seen Oregon right here when they are clearly misaligned. Liberty's got to take advantage of that when they can, and I'm not thinking that's going to happen as often as it is here. But I think Washington's showing Liberty something they might be able to use.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the things I saw with the next clip, just like the other one. The alignment's wrong. You're just outflanked and you're outmanned. You have, your safety back here is to the left side of the ball from the defensive side. So he's across the ball away from the bunch, which is very interesting. I'm not really sure why. So just from the onset, they're just outmanned. Washington does a great job. They get outside, touchdown. Liberty's going to have to make use of mistakes like that from Oregon. Here we go, Chance. Here's Oregon's offense.
Yeah, and you'll see them in trips, which is very good against any defense. I love trips. They're playing far off the ball. They're giving them space because they want to have 2 guys over top here, say nothing behind them. And, as long as Oregon takes that, they'll be fine. You'll just see Jordan James over here at the top of the screen, and we'll see this play later. But they throw it to this guy first, and then they go to it later. The same exact play. You see Jordan James on the last play. See he went out and then up. Say same trips down here on the bottom of the screen. It's the same exact play, just a quarter later, and you just see Jordan James burn them again for a long pass. So you burn them at the bottom of the trips once, they see it again, go right to Jordan James. So I mean, Oregon has very good play calling, and they work their plays off of other plays that they run earlier. So I mean, Oregon has very good play calling. So I mean, look forward to seeing it. It should be a spectacle, at least on offense, for both sides of the ball, hopefully. So we hope to see an exciting game, and I think we will, just for play calling wise and athletes wise.
Just to point out something we talked about, the fooling on once and then twice that we butchered with Oregon's defense, showing the same mistake twice. Washington here, they're playing off. It's 2nd and 8. They're playing off, and Oregon makes them pay for giving them so much space. Now, I mean, he does go to a guy that is covered somewhat well, but this is a mismatch, just personnel-wise.
That's a linebacker.
It's a linebacker on an incredibly dynamic player, and he makes 2 good moves and makes them hurt. But right after this, you'll see, like Chance talking about, the same play basically. Now all of a sudden, it's 3rd and 9, so 3rd down changes it a little bit. Washington is now playing up. They are not giving any bit of room, and then you see we don't hit the thing early because now Washington is playing up tight. They're not going to let that quick game hurt them here. But what happens? The deep game hurts them.
And the thing about it is, Bo Nix knows from his pre-snap read. He's reading that and he's saying, wow, they're in cover 2 man. So you have a mismatch with Jordan James, which is one of Oregon's best recruited players that they stole from Georgia when Dan Lanning left Georgia. You see him go out there. Yeah. I mean, you see him go out there and they know that, hey, this safety right here playing his half of the field is going to lean more towards the middle of the field. So you have one spot to put this ball in between that safety coming down on Jordan James and the linebacker covering him right on that corner of the line over there by the sideline. So you have to put that ball in a perfect place. If not, it's picked or Jordan James gets lit up. That's a great throw. Bo Nix has great throws, pinpoint accuracy. You'll probably see it all night. But same with Penix. He has great throws, pinpoint accuracy. He can place a ball. And if Caden Salter can do the same, we should see a high-scoring game. It don't matter if Oregon is in man or not. Ball placement matters a lot. So if we see that, we should see a very interesting game.
You're asking a lot of any quarterback to be able to make these, pinpoint throws. Only the, top tier guys, elite guys can do it on a regular, accurate basis. And obviously, Washington has some supreme talent at wide receiver, and they're able to create separation against very good DBs. Again, I know we have 2 plays here where Washington gets something on Oregon, but they're most of these plays that we see, they're good coverage. This one gets away from Oregon just a little bit. Number 11 does get a little bit more separation, but Penix has to throw dots a lot of these times, and he does, which is one of the things that elevated Washington over Oregon. And Caden is going to have to do something very similar when it comes to trying to push the ball downfield if they have any hope of scoring a lot of points this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, Rev. So that'll be a very hard task, but say that's the difference between being elite and just good.
This is good coverage. This is just a heck of a ball.
Yeah, I'll say we're going to see the difference between elite and a good if we see Caden Salter lot it up and make every throw consistently and good. We're going to show, hey, Caden Salter's elite. I don't care if he's Group of 5, Power 5, Conference USA, or Pac-12, SEC. Say that kid is elite if he can make all these throws. And if he's just good, then we should see Liberty's dreams of beating Oregon and winning one of the New York Six Bowls fade away just like Colorado's hopes and dreams did when Oregon crushed them on their win streak.
So now we're on the Liberty. What are we looking at here, Rev?
So this was the Conference USA Championship game, as the field says. We just wanted to highlight a couple things that Liberty can do. This first one is just highlighting Caden Salter's arm. He can make very accurate throws and very good throws. I'll let this one play out just so we can see it. Again, this is not the same DBs that Oregon's going to have, obviously, but it is still a very good throw by Caden Salter here.
And as long as he's able to make throws consistently, they'll be able to play with Oregon.
And number 4, we have a couple guys. Number 15 is another one. Liberty has some guys that can make big plays as far as receivers go. And I don't know how they're going to be against DBs that do a much better job playing man coverage, playing it tight, playing a very aggressive, knocking off routes and things like that. But Caden put this ball only where his guy could go get it. His guy went and got it. And they do have playmakers. Despite being a Group of 5 team, they have playmakers. All right, in this one, I wanted to highlight a little bit of bad DB play, which Liberty has a lot of. This guy gets completely mossed. He has good coverage. He's step for step. None of that's bad. He jumped wrong. He jumped off-footed, and then he also just gets mossed and doesn't concentrate on the ball.
Let's say he jumps way too early.
He jumps way too early. He jumps the wrong way. He doesn't attack the ball.
He doesn't attack the man. He doesn't attack the ball. He just jumps pretty. I don't even know what the kid was doing. Say, usually you have a purpose when a ball is thrown your way as a DB, whether it be a safety or a corner or even a linebacker. If the ball's thrown your way, you either want to attack the man and take the PI, or even attack the man and let number 16 or whoever come from behind and get the ball. That, or you attack the ball. Say usually you'll have 2 people, one will be assigned to attack the man and one will attack the ball, and you know what you're doing just because you're a group, you know who's where. I say the linebackers and DBs, everybody knows where everybody is pretty much in coverage unless something's just severely wrong. So they should know, and he doesn't do either. He really just jumps for the sake of jumping backwards, not even towards the ball. So I just think it's bad coaching. They might not have a good DB coach. So it is Liberty. Coaches that are good at Liberty usually tend to leave and go to bigger schools. And I hate it for them, but maybe one day we'll see somebody stay at Liberty from Liberty. But
so really the biggest reason to highlight this too is this happens more than I think Liberty's coaches like to admit, where their DBs, they are good when they come to their steps. Their coverage is good. This guy is in the right position the entire way, and he's there. In fact, the quarterback really shouldn't throw this ball. But what the quarterback knows is he likes number 6. In a one-on-one situation and a 50-50 ball, he likes number 6 to win out against Liberty's DBs. And he's right. 6 gave Liberty problems all night in this conference championship game. I want to say he scored twice. And then he also had a couple other just big plays. And This is New Mexico State. No shade on New Mexico State. They won 10 games this year. Congrats. You beat Auburn. You had a big SEC win under your belt. You had a very good year. And you have some players on your team. We're talking about New Mexico State versus Oregon. And New Mexico State has a guy, Oregon has a whole team of them. And if this is something that New Mexico State went in knowing like, hey, we have our shots here, one-on-one, we're going to go to it. Oregon's going to have that all over the field. That's kind of what I wanted to highlight here. Even when great coverage is there, the very finishing of plays, there's something to the it factor. The studs who just make plays in the moment, those 50-50 ball type of things, whether DB or receiver, teams have studs that make plays that help them win games. And Liberty is just not there from a roster standpoint. So if you see, 50-50 balls start getting thrown up, I expect Oregon to come down with the majority of those just because they have a much higher threshold right now than Liberty does.
And I mean, hey, with the athleticism being different between Liberty and Oregon, we could see 24 be behind the receiver and be able to pick the ball off
True.
because he's behind the receiver instead of in front of him. I would say coaching doesn't involve a kid's athleticism. So that's that kid just being a good athlete, being able to stay with that receiver there. So I mean, who knows what we'll see against Oregon.
So we didn't do a lot of defensive film for Liberty just because it's pretty basic what we think is going to happen there. We think Oregon's going to score a lot of points. I talked about before. I believe that Liberty's DBs are going to give normally too much room. That was actually that clip that we just showed was a better job by that one specific DB to stay on his man and follow him through. But for the most part, I expect Oregon to be able to move the ball at will against Liberty's defense. But here is the X factor, if there will be one, other than the running game is something that needs to be established. But the X factor, Caden Salter, and I'll just let this clip play and bask in all of its glory.
I'll say there are no words for this. There is no coaching for this. This is just the hand of God coming down upon a child and giving him athleticism and awareness and the ability to do something like this. He's barely even touched.
And this is not a one-off. People who have been watching Liberty this year, they have been seeing Caden Salter make plays like this all year long. Sometimes there's touchdowns. Sometimes they're just, first downs. Sometimes it's just getting out of a situation that should be a very big loss and turns into some sort of positive gain. I expect Oregon's defensive line to break through Liberty's offensive line on multiple occasions. And then it's going to be about, can Caden do enough with his legs and do enough with his athleticism to get away from Oregon's pursuit and make plays happen with his legs? And if he can, then you might be looking at a pretty interesting matchup. You might be looking at a higher scoring game. If he can't, then Liberty is going to get the doors blown off of him.
Gentlemen, what do you think the chances are that the Flames stay within 20 points of the Ducks?
Oh, I think it's about like the chances of Florida State staying within 20 points of Georgia.
The chances of that changed when we had 30 opt-outs. That's all I'll say. Okay. As far as this Liberty-Oregon game, I think that you're looking at maybe a closer game in the first half, and then you will see the depth and the talent pool of Oregon just pull way away. So there's a very small chance that by the time the clock says 0-0 in the fourth quarter, Oregon will have pulled this thing way away, especially because I think, Dan Lanning is very good at getting his team right and ready to play games. Most people saw clips of him talking to his team before the Colorado game, and we all know how that one went. I expect them to have not quite the same edge necessarily because there is a lot going on storyline wise back in the season when that game happened, but I still expect them to have an edge to prove that, they're not to be trifled with. Yeah, they lost 2 very close games to a very good Washington team, but they're still one of the top tier, tier 1 teams in college football this year. And I expect them to be able to take care of business. There was one little stat that I just wanted to read just to give perspectives on how much of a David Goliath situation this is, which was the roster talent comparison. So overall, just evaluating roster based off the recruits, the Liberty Flames overall rank out of 130 teams in the FBS is 123. And they did go undefeated, so they have turned that roster into better playmakers. Credit to the coaching staff and the players for hunkering it down and do it. The composite points are 339. The one thing that this is what everybody really pays attention to and can recognize. Liberty has 0 5-stars, 2 4-stars, and 19 3-stars. That is on their entire roster, not just for a class. This is the entire roster. One of those 4 stars is Caden Salter. Oregon, on the other hand, out of 130 teams, their overall rank is 10. They have 5 5-stars, 48 4-stars, and 32 3-stars across their roster. The embarrassment of riches of Oregon versus a very up and coming but middling talent pool with Liberty, I think is going to rear its ugly head by the time we reach the fourth quarter in this game.
So, in other words, even though ESPN gives them a 10% chance, we're saying there's not a chance.
I'm going to hold on to my hope and expect the worst.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fiesta Bowl kicks off tomorrow at 1 o'clock on ESPN. Ducks and Flames, you heard it here first. Expect a big win from the Ducks. For Rev, for Chance, this is Lock. Stay locked in, folks.